'cause you had to be the big shot, didn't you? You had to open up the mouth. You had to be a big shot.
Greetings from Castle Goring from Nikki, Aurora, and from me. Well, lots of events have been taking place, but I think today we can have some fun as well. So, without further ado, I'm going to plunge right in with the very first question, which comes from Bobby Musa, who says, I wouldn't give those kids princely titles or princess titles because they're going to live a very long life. And what if they turned out to be just like their mother and father? They could be a thorn in the monarchy's side for years to come. I wouldn't trust it for a minute. Well, Bobby Musa, you've said it, I haven't. And hopefully from your mouth to God's ears via the king's pen. You know, there are already indications. Remember, Harry and Meghan, wishing them love and success in their life abroad. The website, the royal family website, has been redone somewhat. Harry and Meghan have, with Prince Andrew, have been put at the very end of it. They have been put below Princess Alexandra, who is the most junior ranking member of the royal family in terms of rights of succession. She is number 56 in line to the throne. When she was born on Christmas Day in 1936, she was 6th in line to the throne. It has to be said, she is the most delightful woman. She has a reputation justly earned for being the absolutely perfect, beyond criticism, princess who ever lived. She is charm itself. She is nice. She's conscientious. I mean, you can't sing her praises hard enough. She's good looking. She's very glamorous in a very princessy sort of way. Well, she's number 56, and Harry, Meghan, and Prince Andrew, who now ranks below Prince Harry, just the rules of precedence, they are at the bottom of the list. If you look it up, you will see that Meghan is basically mentioned by name and nothing else. Harry has a little bit more, but he has, I think, if you look as well, you will notice that in the line of succession, you have Prince of Wales, you have Prince George of Wales, you have Princess Charlotte of Wales, you have Prince Louis of Wales, and you then have Master Archie Mountbatten Windsor and Miss Lilibet Mountbatten Windsor. Let's see how long that lasts. But I couldn't agree with you more. Allowing those children to be referred to as prince and princess would be a lifelong thorn in the side of the royal family unless there is a tremendous miracle and those two children learn via a process of osmosis what to be, and by looking at their parents, an example of what not to be. Sheila Terranova Beasley says, growing up by Hollywood, greeting palm trees. Of course, that's a reference to Megsie Baby's line in The Cut where she says that every morning Archie greets the palm trees which are joined at the base and says, "Hi, Mama. Hi, Papa. Hi, BS." But that's the one that's not said. But anyway, greeting palm trees with American values, and not proper American values either, Hollywood merching values, which, as everybody on the East and West Coast and in Middle America knows, Hollywood, an aberration in terms of values. Artifice raised to the level of art. American values, manners, oh yes, but some Americans have good manners. Meghan's just not one of them. Etiquette, well, she doesn't know the meaning of the word. Speech, she has good speech. Accent, she has a good accent. And national resentment of royalty, well, that's absolutely true, because it is inbred in American culture to disparage and denigrate monarchy. It is the basis upon which the American Republic was founded. But I shouldn't keep on interrupting. Resentment of royalty and greed in Meghan's case is quite a contrast to growing up with the king, to the manor born, and watching one's parents dutifully serve. I hope the king does not bow to Meghan's blackmailing racist accusations. The children are no more black than the king himself. Very good point. The children may have a little bit more African blood than Charles, who has some. Remember, Madrigana of Faro and Philippa of Hainault. However, the little bit of black blood that they have, as the Jamaicans would say, wash out long time ago. Because those children better not even go into a sun-filled room without Factor 50 sunscreen. Otherwise, they're going to be in big trouble. It would be an absolute disaster for the monarchy if Meghan and Harry's manipulations resulted in those children being allowed to use princely titles in a culture that would also not only at times disparage them because of those titles, but it would create undue attention for them. And remember, Meghan and Harry said they wanted no titles for Archie and they wanted him to lead an ordinary life. Well, how does that reconcile with the demand that he be given a princely title? Oh, I think we have something. Oh, gosh. Mickey has just brought me a flying pig that landed. And what does a flying pig say? Internationally protected status. Oh, well, I think we're getting close now. Tracy says, surely the king is not stupid. If he lets their kids have titles running around the USA, marching with the mother of the royal family, it will not go down well with the UK public and the monarchy will be in trouble. I am sure the Prince of Wales knows this. Tracy, he will know it if you write and point it out to him. If many of you write and point it out to him. Believe it or not, there are times when public opinion matters. There are also times when it doesn't matter. but this will be one of the times when it does matter. Bradley Benoit says, and Harry had the stones to say he wanted to be sure the right, in quotation marks, people were looking after the Queen. He is clearly delusional if he counted himself as one, when he showed no compunction to check in on her. Bradley Benoit, very well observed, but the reason why Harry gave that pathetic interview to that American TV journalist and said what he said was to big himself up. Harry's very good at bigging himself up and playing to the American gallery, you know. All those deadbeat dumbos who still believe that Vanity Fair and People magazine and all of those publications of that ilk have a valid point where Harry and Meghan are concerned. He is delusional, but despite his delusionalism, it's a financial ace in the hole. Look how important I am. What do you think Spotify, Netflix, and all the other people have been paying for? His importance as a British prince. He is exceedingly self-important, delusionally self-important. He overestimates his importance at all times, which has been one of the problems, because he overestimated his importance. Meghan overestimated his importance. She overestimated the importance they would possess together. Now, I can to an extent understand her confusion where the yardstick of importance was concerned, because the Duchess of Windsor suffered from the same problem. They don't understand the difference between prestige and power. A lot of people don't, unless you've been exposed to both prestige and power, preferably from birth, and unless you have a discerning mind, you don't understand the relative importance of each, and more important, the boundaries, limits, and unimportance beyond which each ceases to exist. Janet Fitzpatrick says, I am not, I've got him, sorry. Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. I'm not interested in titles. The only important title is Mom. Now, who said that? Janet Fitzpatrick, thanks for the quote. Who said that? I said that. I. The great I specialist. Me, and me again. Me, I always gain. Me, gain. Oh, yes. I'm not interested in titles. The only important title is Mom. Well, we are all convinced. We're all totally convinced. Oh, you're right, Megsy baby. The only important title in the world is Mom. And there's no doubt that you're entitled to use it. Just as how there's no doubt I'm entitled to use it. D for Disdain says, why in the world has no balls wants to give genetic pain to his children and trap them? How can he be so cruel? Wasn't what he said that he had genetic pain and was trapped, and his brother and father were trapped, and he himself was liberated by Mega Claw from the clutches of the royal family? Is he cruel and evil for wanting to give his children the genetic pain that Megaclaw managed to get him to escape from? And the answer is obviously yes. Yes. How wicked of him to want to saddle his children with the very encumbrance that he complained about, that royal status. Oh, or does he think he can waft off with the royal status, maybe end up by various lawsuits and other forms of pressure with internationally protected status, so the American people will have to pay for all that security because they're so important. Gotta need to have security at all times. It's gotta be 4 princes and princesses in the house, 1 royal prince, 1 royal princess, and 2 royal duke and duchesses. My goodness, the Beverly Hillbillies really have arrived. In fact, they haven't arrived, they have arriven. And as we know, no such word exists. But yes, the irony of it all, trying to force out of the king the very thing that he has complained caused all his pain and suffering. Or does he think, as would appear to be the case, that they can take their royal titles and their royal status to America, march it, flog it to death, belittle it, sully it, defame it, denigrate it, maximize its commercial potential, and that's called liberation, that's called freedom, that's called the new royal way. Remember the title of the book, Funding Freedom and Finding Freebies? How Meghan and Harry were going to create a new royal family, the royal family of the United States of America and the rest of the world. D says, yes, I agree. Zara and Peter should be elevated to royal rank. I would do it now. King Charles has to be seen to be a king, unafraid to make strong, clear decisions about what is in the best interests of the crown and the country in the long term, and not make decisions like a politician would, worrying about short-term popularity. I agree with a lot of that. I will, however, have a proviso or two. First of all, Zara and Peter Phillips have not so far expressed any willingness to be elevated to the rank, to a princely rank. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it certainly would give a very clear message, especially if it were done in tandem with the elevation of the Earl of Wessex to the Duke of Edinburgh, and at the same time, Harry and Meghan's children being able to call themselves Earl of Dumbarton and Lady Lilibet Mountbatten Windsor at the moment. I think those would give very clear messages if the Phillips children were on board with it. Now, a lot of people think that Princess Anne turned down the right for them to become princely. She didn't. When Princess Margaret married the Earl of Snowdon, he was Tony Armstrong-Jones. He was made Earl of Snowdon before their first child was born. In a few previous generations, when she married the Earl of Fife, he was made a Duke of Fife, and ultimately their children were made Princess Alexandra and Princess Maud of Fife. And incidentally, at this point, I should interject and correct myself, because I think in the last video I said that Princess Maud became Duchess of Fife. She never did. Her eldest sister, Princess Alexandra of Fife, became Duchess of Fife in her own right, but the title was never used because she was already Princess Arthur of Connaught. And when she died, Princess Maud, Lady South-Esque's son James, became the third Duke of Fife. So I should interject at that stage and correct myself, because I did slip up. So, to return to what I was saying, there are lots of precedents of princesses marrying men who were raised in rank. When Princess Alexandra, the beautiful Princess Alexandra, the 56th in line to the throne, Princess Alexandra, the ideal princess, Princess Alexandra, married Angus Ogilvy. He was the younger brother of the Earl of Airlie, and he was offered an earldom by the Queen, and he refused it. So his children were just plain Mr. and Miss. Princess Margaret accepted it, and her children became Lord and Lady. None of these is a royal title. Indeed, Princess Alexandra and the Duke of Fife's two daughters were initially Lady Alexandra and Lady Maud. They were raised to princely rank and became princesses, not royal highnesses, just highnesses, but still of princely rank. So there are precedents for it, and it can be done. I think it would be very popular. I think it would be very, in terms of equality, a very equalizing thing to do. It would go contrary to the stated objective of the present king to slim down the monarchy, but the monarchy is being too slimmed down just by age. The Duke of Kent is well into his 80s. Princess Alexandra is well into her 80s. The Duke of Gloucester is over 80. What's going to happen when they fall off the tree, so to speak? Who's going to take their place? There are not that many young members of the royal family who will be able to take their place. We're going to have a dearth of royals and only a handful who cannot do everything. So, but it would require the cooperation of the Phillips children and Princess Anne. And as I said, there was never any prospect of them becoming Prince Peter and Princess Zara. But there could be now, because when those children were born, women's liberation wasn't what it is. Feminine equality, wasn't what it is. So there are considerable changes which would make it a perfectly viable proposition. They might not want it. They might not want the work. It's an awful lot of work. And it's very restrictive. They might not want it. But I certainly think they would do the job very well, and they would be tremendously popular. Sally Ramesar says, did Harry and Meghan follow the rules with respect to verification of birth as required to be in the line of succession? Should the king disregard those rules and bestow titles on those children just on what Meghan and Harry say? Also, Harry is very close to the throne. As regards being a regent, seeing Charles is old and William's children are very young, should anything happen to Charles or William in the next 9 years, think about the consequences. Well, this is a whole bundle of goodies, if I may be so bold as to use that word, wrapped up into one parcel. First of all, the old rule of the Home Secretary being present for royal births was dispensed with many, many years ago. If I recall correctly, Princess Alexandra was the last member of the royal family with whom the Home Secretary was in attendance at birth. Could be wrong, but I think I'm not. So everybody since then has followed the pattern that ordinary people follow, which is the child is born, the father is the one who usually informs the registrar as to where the birth took place, who gave birth, the registrar registers it, and that's the end of it. That becomes a valid registration of birth. To that extent, Harry and Meghan fulfilled the legal requirements because he informed the registrar that the Duchess of Sussex had given birth to a son called Archie. Lilibet's birth hasn't even taken place here. The process is not identical. However, Harry and Meghan fulfilled the ostensible legal requirements in the United States as they did here for registering what is on the face of it a perfectly legitimate birth. At this juncture, more than that, I do not wish to say, nor would I regard it as advisable to say. However, Harry is very close to the throne. As many people have pointed out, it has been widely reported that Meghan said they are one plane crash away from the throne. What would happen if William died? A lot depends on what happens between now and should that eventuality take place. I would submit that Catherine Wales would be a far more suitable regent and would inevitably be appointed one of a regency council. There would most likely be two other regents, but she would be, as the mother of the future king, she or the future queen, if something should happen to George and Charlotte, she would be appointed regent. There's little doubt in my mind that somebody as exemplary as she is and as invaluable to the monarchy as she is would be appointed a regent. Would Harry be appointed to the Regency Council as well? You know, they say a week is a long time in politics. Well, we can speculate till the cows come home. I think it would be fruitless to speculate. It would be pointless to speculate beyond that. But there is every possibility that Harry, if he had blotted his copy sufficiently, and we must admit he's heading in that direction, would not be made a regent. And yes, an awful lot could happen in the next 9 years, including with and to Harry. So I don't think there's any point in taking this any further. Yvonne Burns says, let's talk about the unsung hero of the hour in the service. Hats off to that fabulous candle. Yes, I think we have the Order of the Garter. I think we need the Order of the Candle, or preferably the Order of the very thick candle. What about that? Yeah. Wasn't it propitious? And I don't think it could have been deliberate, because I suspect it was just one of those wonderful blessings from the Lord, like the rainbows, because there were so many rainbows and shafts of light on the Queen's coffin. I suspect Prince Philip was up there managing things on behalf of his beloved Lilibet and their beloved son Charles and their beloved grandsons William and Harry, because Harry may have been a big disappointment to them, and he was a big disappointment to them. I know that to be a fact. However, that doesn't mean you don't love the disappointment. In fact, that simply makes it more painful. Kay Evans says, and Kay Evans, incidentally, is a beautiful black lady. And you will see why I make that point when I have finished reading out this comment. Because it is so important for everyone who is not of colour to realise that Meghan and Harry's colour card may dupe imbeciles, but it doesn't dupe sensible people of colour any more than it dupes sensible people of any other racial identity. Gosh, we all knew she was a bully. Look how she treated Princess Catherine and that baby girl, and her sister, brother, her own dad. Imagine how she acts behind closed doors when no one is watching. The Markles try to tell the world what kind of person she is, but many wouldn't listen to them. Kay Evans, bless you. what Meghan has done to the staff, to the world, to the British people, to the Commonwealth, to her father, her brother, and her sister, not to mention to the dying Prince Philip and the dying Queen, is unconscionable. And I use that word in its classical meaning, unconscionable. It displays a total lack of conscience. Nobody with any feelings, indeed nobody, in my opinion, with any self-respect, would behave in such a way as to expose herself as being the ruthless, cold, calculating, unconscionable creature that her conduct has led us to the inevitable conclusion that she is. And I understand from people who know her very well that you're absolutely right. What glimpses we have got are the absolute tip of the iceberg. That Meghan, behind closed doors, is quite another person. Evidently, the way she treated her husband, Trevor, remember Trevor, I can't live without Trev. I just love Trev. Trev's such an embarrassment. He's gotta go. I think I just take off these rings and post them back to him. But I understand that she had him coming and going. And her treatment of him was so completely contrary to what anybody would imagine decent treatment to be. And then she'd do a total vote farce and be sweet and vulnerable. And Trev, I don't think I can live without you. The consummate actress. Yes, her sister Samantha, her brother Thomas Jr., and her father latterly have tried to tell the world what she was. And at first people didn't want to listen. Nobody wanted to listen. Because everybody thought, well, we all bought the lie. Meghan was a good enough actress for us to buy the lie. It's just that she's not as clever as she thinks she is. And she has unmasked herself with her own actions. Noreen Kessler says, I believe that Harry and Meghan have put themselves into dire financial straits. One needn't be a CPA to add. Hence they're buzzing around the royal family and making veiled threats via The Cut magazine. Dropped by their PR company for being in arrears. Suing for free, seeking IPP status via titles for alleged children, etc., etc. We will all know how truly desperate she is when she tries to monetize a reunion with her father. Well, Noreen Kessler, I love it. I think it's droll. I think you've hit the nail on the head. And shall I tell you? Harry says Meghan's capable of anything. I'm willing to take his word for it. I wouldn't put anything past her. Anything. He said it. I'm agreeing with it. The tragedy, and I know this to be the case, is if she did that, her lovely, sweet father, who loves her still, would welcome the reunion, would want to believe that his sweet and loving baby girl was back to what he used to think she was. And unless he managed a very speedy exit, would live to rue the day that he had bought that line of chatter, because it would only be a matter of time before she pulled another rabbit out of the hat. But if push comes to shove, who knows, she might yet pull that reconciliatory rabbit out of the hat. Jill Hall says, propaganda, lies, disinformation. The Harkles do that very well. In fact, they excel frequently enough to become obvious and predictable. Couldn't agree more. They are both cunning but not intelligent enough to have worked out that what they have gained is not a fraction of what they have lost, both in financial terms and integrity. Well, integrity, my dear, is something you have to possess. I don't think you lose it the way you lose money. What they have lost is reputational as well as financial. But integrity, I'm not sure that people who have been capable of conduct like this would be held up as examples of what possessing integrity is about. I think their conduct has conflicted utterly with what integrity as a fundamental characteristic is all about and how you exhibit it. Snow Lily says, as an author, do you have an explanation as to why Harry received such a large advance to write his book? This keeps mystifying me. Also, am I the only one that thinks his various recollections are nothing new and of no interest? The book could go the way of the bench, could it not? Love to Mickey, Aurora and Treasure. Love your channel. The book could well go the way of the stench. I don't think it's called the bench. I think it's called the stench. But I actually think people will be more interested in what he has to say than what she has had to say. Nobody's really interested in her except as an appendage of his. People are more interested in him because he was a born prince. He has blotted his copy. I think it is virtually impossible for the book to earn out its published advance, if indeed the advance as published is accurate. But it wouldn't be the first time, and it doubtless won't be the last time, that publishers have been caught up in an auction and paid silly money for a book that didn't earn out its advance. It's happened time and time again, and it might well happen, in this instance. Publishers get very excited. Media people, generally, not only publishers, get very excited, especially when there is a competition. It's like men, at least in my generation, men who, if 2 or 3 men wanted the same girl, even if she was a turkey, she became the finest goose in the land. It was only after they've overbid for the goose and found themselves stuck with the gander of the goose that they realized, oh dear, wasn't such a good goose after all. It happens. I've seen it happen time and again when I was younger, with men getting excited in their competitive urge in terms of women, and I've seen it happen regularly with books. And I have even myself profited from it happening with books of mine, where they were regarded as so desirable that publishers ended up paying rather more for the book than had ever been paid before, including by that ghastly woman, Eve Pollard. Joyce Cutner says, so far she has suffered no consequences for her bullying, and everything else she keeps getting away with. Everything. No one seems to put a stop to her nasty behaviour. And Joyce Cutner is answered by Barbara Scott, who says, and I'm reading all of this out because it shows you that we rarely are having proper conversations, and that people do actually engage conversationally in intelligent exchange. Yes, I know this is supposed to be the most erudite, sophisticated, intelligent and well-informed channel on YouTube, and possibly it is, but even if it isn't, we are certainly right up there with the masters. And Barbara Scott says, I don't think she's getting away with anything. She has lost all credibility and respect from anyone over the age of 13. Sorry. And with a couple firing neurons. She has not been accepted by the crowd she desperately desired. Hollywood stars, high society, fashionistas, political powers, etc. May I interject right there, Barbara Scott, and say she had no interest in being accepted by high society. She went out of her way to rebuff and alienate everybody in the British aristocracy, bar 1 or 2, who were, she thought, going to be sufficiently malleable. Everyone else she set out to alienate, so that she would be able to complain to Harry about how stuffy the aristocracy is and how tradition is keeping everybody back. Not that tradition has actually kept fortunes in families for 1,000 years, because she, of course, who's never even had a proper fortune, knows more about the maintenance and preservation of a fortune than people whose families have been doing it for hundreds of years and sometimes over 1,000 years. So she knew that society, or as you put it, high society, she was going to be batting beyond her average, and she couldn't compete, so she denigrated. I have chapter and verse on all of this. How rude she was, how people's friendly approaches were spurned. So she wasn't after high society because she knew There was no way she could fit in. She couldn't match anybody, much less surpass them. So, Hollywood stars, a different matter. I understand she was right up George Clooney the way a rat is up a drain pipe, to use a vulgarism. She's been up Oprah and Gail and all those other rather, well, I would have said in terms of comparables with royals and grand aristocrats, very third and fourth rate people. But it's interesting how Meghan, knowing that she couldn't outshine the first raters, eliminated the first and second raters and has ended up playing ball with the third raters. Because Oprah might have been a very successful chat show hostess, and she might have made herself $1 billion. But I've got news for you, my dear. Oprah Winfrey would be a fish out of water in any aristocratic environment. And that's not being snobbish, because Lena Horne was very at home in an aristocratic environment, very at home. She's just one of many people of colour who have been at home. Eartha Kitt, Grace Jones, that's right, Grace Jones. Meghan Markle. Does that begin to tell you the category of nonentity with which we're dealing? Lynn Carter-Catone says, Meghan might well be the instigator of her own undoing. Looks like it is going in that direction. Of course, she will never admit that she has been orchestrating her own downfall all the time. By not consolidating her manipulations and untruths, she doesn't seem to understand how easy it is to decry or challenge her. Lynn Carter-Catone, that's very well spotted. It is a feature of personality types like Meghan's and my mother's. They lie, scheme, maneuver, manipulate, create havoc to such an extent, and they think nobody's going to be able to see through them. But the more they do is the more people see through them. And Meghan has done it on a worldwide scale via the media, in front of the whole world. She hasn't even done it only behind closed doors. She's done some of it behind closed doors, but the lion's share of her manipulations have been via the media. And she was dumb enough, and she is dumb enough, to think that she's so clever that she can dupe everybody. And yes, she is the architect of her own destruction. Let us see what happens next. Let us see what the outcome is going to be. I don't know how much longer a situation like this can continue for, because she will doubtless, at this point, she is doing a tactical retreat, deploying the troops. But you know, she's going to end up like generals and really chiefs of staff of armies, who order in troops that no longer exist. She'll be doing it figuratively. Some of them have done it actually. It's interesting because when people are brazen enough to overplay their hands, initially they often have success because the people are so taken aback. And this sets up a scenario where ultimately they are the architects of their own destruction, because initially they think walls are doors, and when they tap on them, sometimes the doors have been papered over and they give way. But that inevitably stops at a certain point. And when you have exposed yourself to public revelation to the extent that Meghan Markle has done, it is inevitable that you are going to be the architect of your own downfall. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell. And remember, please keep the questions and comments coming in. This cannot be done without you. Thank you so much. God bless and goodbye.